I'm Beth, and this is Spiral Path Arts. And I wanted to show you and share with you the little projects that I have been working on recently. I've been having so much fun with these, and I just couldn't help but want to share them with you. What I have been doing, I've been going back and doing more slow stitching and quilting recently because it's what I do. It's what I enjoy the most, I would say. And it's all started with this little box. And all the sides are fabric collaged and slow stitched. Even the bottom a little bit has got some slow stitching on it. And it's just a very simple little design, and it was necessity is the mother of invention, one of those kind of things, because I wanted it something like this next to my bed on my bedside table to hold like my little necessities, my medications, my prescription medications, my Advil, those kind of things, because if I put them in the drawer, I forget to take them. But I don't like it to look like a nursing home with a whole bunch of pill bottles sitting on the side of my bed, next to my bed. And also either myself or the cat tends to knock them off in the middle of the night, and then I have to go looking for them. Anyhow, so I wanted something just the right size to hold all of that. And so this one is 4x4 finished size. And of course, once I made one, I had to keep going. So I wanted to play a little bit with a smaller size. So this one and this one, which you will see me make in a few minutes, are 3x3 finished size. And these are perfect for like your little clover clips or some spools of thread next to your sewing machine or your sewing table, wherever you are. And this one was a lot of fun. And again, it's a nice way to use up all my little bitty scraps of favorite fabrics and just sit and stitch. And something this size doesn't take that long to stitch, especially if you're just doing your basic running stitch. Then, of course, I had more ideas. I laid in bed, unable to sleep one night, and came up with some other ideas. I was like, well, this is a perfect way to use up unused quilt blocks. And also, you know, you can go as small, you could probably even go smaller than this. It would have to be all hand stitched to, you know, bigger. Now, the bigger they get, the more sturdy interfacing or something you'd have to keep them from being floppy, but maybe you want them floppy. I don't know. So I had these little 9-patch squares that aren't really designed. They're just scrap fabric that I was testing my 1/4-inch foot when I got, when I got my featherweight, and or maybe before that, I can't recall, but so they're not really designed or matchy-matchy, but they're all the same fabric. And I had 5 of them, so they made a nice little sides. And in order to speed the process, because I was experimenting, this one I actually machine free motion quilted all the edges, all the sides, not edges, the sides, the pieces, and then lined it with cotton quilt fabric, which we will go over in a moment. That got me thinking, well, that's a nice basket size, and the 9-patch kind of made me think of a woven basket. And I was thinking, oh, we just had Ash Wednesday last week. And of course, down here in the South, well, I guess everywhere, but down here in the South is a big deal, Mardi Gras. So that got me thinking about spring and Easter. And I thought, well, I could easily make a pretty Easter basket using this technique. And so that is what I did. These fabrics, this I did a more traditional style 9-patch. I had a jelly roll of these really pretty florals, and there's obviously quite a bit left because this only took like three strips from the jelly roll. And then, where you can see, I hand quilted with pearl cotton, just some basic quilt stitches through the blocks. And because I don't like to waste fabric and I like to use up every little bit I can find, the interior, 2 sides of the interior are more 9-patch because there were enough of the strips left to make 2 other 9 patches and then the other sides are just quilt fabric. And then the handle, I use some, 3 and just whatever I had left of the strips, and then a coordinating strip from the jelly roll to make the handle, and interfaced it well and machine stitched it. So let's take a look at how I made them. I have been making these little fabric boxes featuring slow stitching and fabric collaging. And this is the first one I made. And it is all slow stitched and hand stitched together. And I really liked it. The process went well. But when I decided I wanted to make more, I realized I had to come up with a little bit simpler construction process. The embroidery part, the stitching part, that was fine, but the assembling part that I didn't really like it. I did like the end results. So here I am going to show you some of the steps and other things that I made. So I'm going to take you through what you're going to need to make one little box. So how I make these. First of all, I take my batting. That's not a good example because I had to fudge that one a little bit. I take a piece of batting and I cut it to the finished size that I want each side of my box to be. In this case, it is a 3-inch square. Then I take a piece of scrap fabric. This is old sheets, very soft, very thin, and I cut that an inch larger. So this is a 4-inch square. So you can see the batting is 3 inches. The fabric on top is 4 inches. I roughly center as best I can the batting on the scrap fabric, the foundation fabric, I think is probably the best way to call this. And then I turn it over and I collage my pieces onto it and do my slow stitching like I have done many times before. And I make 4 sides and 1 bottom for it. And in this case, the 4 sides and the bottom are all very similar. In some of them, the bottom is more basic. It could even just be a solid piece of fabric like this one I'll show you later as it gets assembled with the one it's going with. I just did a whole bunch of running stitch back and forth to firm this one up. So you're going to have 5 pieces like this. This one is actually, I think, going to be my bottom piece. And then also you're going to need your lining pieces. So let me set these aside. Your lining pieces are just whatever random fabric that you have around. Again, you're going to cut those into an inch bigger than your finished size. If you want to do 1/4 inch seams, you're a quilter and I like to have a little bit extra fabric to work with, so I do 1/2 inch seam allowances, so they're an inch bigger. And then on the back side, I took my ruler and a pencil and I marked out my 3-inch squares. These are going to be my stitching lines, and that's why your seam allowance isn't as critical, the measurement, because you're going to stitch on the line. So again, you've got 5 of those, 4 sides and a bottom. So we're going to set those aside for now, and we're going to go back to our outside pieces, our main pieces. And I'm going to put them back out here. So this is the bottom, this piece, and then our 4 sides. And, you can decide what the top, bottom. At one point I had decided, and I've moved them so many times that I don't remember. Let's just say that'll work. And one at a time, we're going to take the bottom piece and one of the sides, put them right sides together, and line up You can line up the edges if you've done, you know, if you centered those battings on there really well. But what the key here is to get the edge of the batting lined up through there and the corners of the batting together. And you can stick a pin through there and see if, like I can stick a pin through this corner. And then through here, so it goes right at the corner of that, and then line that up. And you can ignore this. I purposely made that little piece of fabric go over there because my scrap that I was using for my base, my foundation, wasn't quite the right size. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our machine. A zipper foot makes it really easy to go right along the edge of the batting and make that seam. You're going to go from corner to corner of batting. You're not going to go from edge to edge of fabric, just right there. And then you'll open that up and it will be sewn like this. You can do it with your sewing machine. Like I said, a zipper foot makes getting right up to that edge really easy. If you don't have a zipper foot, you can just try to line your needle up along there real well. You could easily hand stitch this. If you wanted to hand stitch this entire project, this is a very hand stitching friendly project. And then once you have one side sewn, you're going to repeat that process for all four sides, again, sewing from corner to corner of the batting, leaving these edges free. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Okay, here we go. And there's our first seam. And you can see that these little sections are open on the end. And now I'm going to grab my next part and try to remember which was my bottom. And line this one up the same way, making sure the corners of the batting meet and edge of the batting and the corner there meet. Put a pin back in if you need one. So you can see that my fabric edges don't really meet up because I just had not exact squares on this one. I was just using some scraps. The more precise you are in laying everything out to start with, the more precise this part will be, but it's not that critical. Trust me. And then we're going to just repeat that 3 more times to attach the sides to the bottom. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the sides. So here we are now with our 4 sides attached to the bottom, right sides together. And we're going to now do these side seams. So what you're going to do is bring sides up like this. Again, feeling in here that the edges of the batting are right together. Move that out of the way. The bottom piece, you can go like that. And we're going to put this under the machine. This, lining everything up. Again, you can put a pin in. Hold everything together to make sure you don't sew over the pin when you get there. And we're going to start from right here at the corner of that batting. You can do a little back tack if you want. And on these, you can sew right off the edge to the top because that's the top of the box. And when the lining goes in, you don't need to keep that free. I hope that makes sense. We're going to put this in here. Drop the feed dog or the presser foot. Get my oops, come on. I think I got a piece of thread caught here. It's keeping it from moving forward. Okay. And that's your first side. So you're going to do that all the way around, and then your box will be basically constructed, and then it'll be time to make the lining. So I will pause the camera, finish that, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to do the next couple steps. So here we have the finished box, and you can take your scissors and, if you want, trim up any of the seam allowances to neaten them up, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be in the lining, and we used such a thin fabric that it shouldn't really need a lot of the bulk taken out, but it's not a bad thing to just take some of the corner bulk off of these. Sorry, that went off camera. And then you can turn it right side out. And poke it out. Now in these, I have since realized an error that I was making, that when I was collaging, I didn't always let the collage fabric, trying to find an example right here, go over the edge, to the edge of the foundation fabric, and so there are little gaps. If that bothers you, and it might bother me, so I might just take some embroidery floss, some pearl cotton, and whip stitch just to cover those raw edges now that it's complete where they are, and it'll just add another little element of stitching. It's no big deal. It's not anything that's going to affect the construction of it. It's just a cosmetic detail. So we can set this aside, and now we'll do our lining pieces. So assembling the lining is exactly the same as assembling the main body part. You're going to take what will be the base of your lining and right sides together. So the stitching lines are drawn on the wrong side of the fabric. So that's right side up. This is right side down. And I think I cut these pretty well with my rotary cutter that the stitching lines should line up. But let's just check by sticking a pin through that juncture. And yeah, it's coming out that juncture there. Again, it's not super critical. It's just, if you haven't been real careful about cutting and drawing your lines on, you may want to just double check that if you stitch here, that you're going to be stitching on the stitch line there. We're going to do the exact same thing we just did with the exterior for the lining. I'm going to stitch from here to here, not off the edge of the fabric, but just to corner of the stitching lines. I'm going to do one, open that up, do the other, so all four sides, so it'll make that T shape, and then we'll do the side seams the same way we did just now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, one thing to also, well, I'm going to start that. And then when we get to doing the side seams, there's one other thing you have to keep in mind. But let's get the sides attached to the bottom, and then I'll show you that little thing to keep in mind when I get there. Okay? All righty. Here I am. I have my sides all attached to the bottom piece, and I'm going to line up the side seams, pull the bottom out of the way that way. And again, sew along the side all the way, and I can sew off the top of the fabric for this lining piece. I still have the zipper foot on, so it makes lining it up maybe a little trickier than it should be, but it'll do the trick. It'll work. Oh. Okay, so that's 3 of the 4 side seams. This last one, this is where you've got to do something a little different. You have 2 options. When you attach this, put the lining in the box, you're going to need to do it right sides together and turn it right sides back out. So leaving an opening on one of these side seams is the best way to do that. The other option would be to sew all 4 sides up together and then bind the top edge of the whole box, or turn the raw edges in and hand stitch it. That is a perfectly good option. I would do that if I were to go any smaller than this, or if my materials for my outer part of the box were any stiffer or thicker than this. I've made it work. It's tricky. So the option is always to just sew all 4 sides up and put them together, and then hand finish the top, or machine, like put a binding around the top. But I'm going to show you how I've done it, and let's see how it goes. It worked before. Let's hope it works again this time on camera, because that's always a part of the problem too. Now I'm only going to go up because I only have a 3-inch side here, about that far. And then I'm going to come back here and leave a pretty big opening. I really just want the corner at the bottom and the top edge secured, so when I put it together, it all holds its shape. Okay. Where's my bottom? Okay. So here's your finished box, right sides out. Here is your finished lining, still inside out. And you're going to put one inside the other so the right sides are together. The right side of this box is going to go in here. And when I did my other box, I used my other machine, which has a free arm, but I think I can make this work on my featherweight without the free arm. If we can't, you won't even see this part. I will do it, edit it out. Okay. So I'm going to line up that top edge, shoving that, getting that tight in there. Lining up the corners, seams, another place for clips or pins. And I am going to stitch along my stitching line. You could have done this the other way, where the finished piece is on the outside and the lining is on the inside, but I think this will work. I've done it both ways. Put a pin in here. Just making sure these all, some more pins in this little project than I usually use in one entire big project, but okay. Now, how am I going to do this with this machine? Here I'm going to just sew around the top edge, and since I don't have a free arm on this machine, I have to just go a little bit at a time. Stop, needle down, and kind of maneuver it, because you don't want to catch the other parts of the box under the needle here. But just take your time, making sure you're only showing through the lining and one layer of the top of the box itself, and just readjusting as you go. Caught on something somewhere here. And when you get back around to where you began, you just stitch back over your beginning stitches for a little bit, and then pull it back out. And it should all be stitched all the way around. I'm going to pause the camera and clip my threads and everything, and then I'll show you turning it right side out. Okay, here's the opening I left, and this is going to be tricky, and you just got to take your time and get this to come through here. This is why I say on these small boxes, this might not be the best method, but it works really well on the 4 and 6 inch boxes because you have a larger space to bring the material through. But just take your time and don't pull too hard. It will come through. It's getting there. There we go. Get in there and poke the corners. And here's another instance where it didn't quite catch in the seam because I didn't overlap this fabric enough. It's okay. We'll just go back with hand stitching and cover that up. The ones I have in process now, I realized that problem and fixed it, but I didn't it was too late for this little box. Now you can hand stitch this hole closed or machine stitch it. So let me just pull the machine forward here and quickly close up that hole. Come on, get on there. Yep, see, I knew that was going to happen. I'm actually going to come back and take that out and hand stitch this closed off camera because I forgot I had that brown thread in the bobbin and it's not behaving itself. Plus I don't want that brown thread showing. So let's just pretend that I have closed up this hole because you can come back and do it later. So once that hole is actually closed up, we're going to tuck the lining in and get it all down into the corners. You can take your iron and really press it to get the lining rolled to the inside. But the final step I would do, either not with this machine, but with my bigger machine probably, because it has the free arm, so I can fit this over the arm of the machine and stitch all the way around, which I can't do with this one. So, but probably just a hand embroidery thread, just do a line of top stitching around here to hold. Where's the one I finished? Like this. This one I've done by machine. I just machine top stitched around the top to keep everything turned inside. So the top was neater than it is here. Do that by machine or by hand. This one I might do by hand because I don't want to get the big machine out. But those are two little finished, slow stitched whatnot boxes. And I've already found uses for these boxes, even though I'm making these for somewhere else. But this little size is perfect for holding your clover clips next to your machine. Now here's a different one that I am making, and I decided I wanted to
make a handle for this one. So it was like a little Easter basket. So it was assembled the same way as the others, and I have assembled what's going to be the right side, the exterior quilted pieces, and have them sitting here. I have assembled my lining pieces as I have done before, and there's an opening, and then I made a strap, and one side is pieced of bits of the quilting fabric that I had left. This was made out of a jelly and put some heavy interfacing in it and stitched it to make a nice firm, sturdy strap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside here with the strap pinned inside here. And actually, I think I have it. Let me see. I want to make sure when it's finished, that when it's finished, this is the finished part sticking up. So I think I want it this way. Yes. So I'm going to put the strap in here. I'm actually going to overlap, let the strap stick up past, because these are only going to have 1/4 inch seam allowances, and I don't want the strap to come out. So I'm going to just temporarily put that there, and then bring it across. Do it on the other side, same thing. Pin it in place. Then, I hope you can see this. I'm going to put the lining right sides out inside here, and do just like I did with the small one. Line up all my corners, all my edges, pin it in place. I'm going to get these where the straps are pinned in place, and stitch all the way around the outside, turn it right sides out, and when I get that done, I'll come back and show you.
I hope you enjoyed that little simple project, simple-ish project. You can make it as easy or as detailed as you want, of course, with either your hand stitching and your slow stitching, or machine quilt and machine sew the entire project. It's a great way to use up unused quilt blocks or little scraps of fabric and your little bits of batting left over from larger quilt projects as well. And if you know me and you've been with me any time at all, you know that using up what I already have is pretty much my life goal at this point, using things and repurposing things able to keep making art, making crafts, and just making in general. So thank you so much. I hope everything is going well for you wherever you are in the world and whenever you are watching this video. I really appreciate it, and peace out. Love you lots. Take care of yourself.